The plains stretched wide and merciless, a sun-bleached ocean of dust and grass that swallowed men whole if they weren't careful. The wind dragged its fingers across the land, lifting grit into the air, carrying the smell of dry earth, horse sweat and old blood. Out here nothing came easy, especially mercy. Ethan Calloway had learned that lesson young. He sat tall in the saddle, reins loose in his left hand, rifle resting across his thigh as his horse picked its way toward the ranch house in the distance. The Calloway spread crouched low against the land, weather-beaten wood and tin roof baked pale by decades of sun. It had survived droughts, cattle rustlers, and one brutal winter that had taken Ethan's wife with it. That was 5 years ago. The ranch had never felt the same since. 2 riders followed behind him, his daughters, Clara and May, riding ponies too big for their thin frames, dust clinging to their skirts and braids. They rode quiet, eyes sharp, already learning the silence the frontier demanded. Ethan slowed as they reached the corral. He dismounted, boots hitting dirt with a dull thud, and tied off his horse. The day had been hard. Lost cattle tracks to the south, rumors of Apache movement near the river, and word drifting in from town that a railroad. Man had been asking questions about his land. Nothing new, everything dangerous. Inside the house, the air was cooler but heavy. The walls held the echoes of a woman's laughter long gone. Ethan set his hat on the table and poured water into 3 tin cups. May drank fast. Clara watched him over the rim of hers. "You're going to town tomorrow," Clara said. It wasn't a question. Ethan nodded. "Need supplies, fence wire, ammunition, and a wife," May added bluntly. The word landed hard. Ethan froze, cup halfway to his mouth. He exhaled slowly. "That ain't something you buy at the mercantile." "You said it yourself," May pressed. "We need someone. The house feels empty." Clara set her cup down carefully. "Pa, we heard you talking to Mr. Hargreave last week." Ethan's jaw tightened. He remembered the conversation too well. His neighbor's well-meaning suggestion that a man couldn't raise 2 girls alone on the frontier, that a woman, any woman, was better than none. "I said something I shouldn't have," Ethan replied. "Didn't mean it." "What did you say?" May asked. Ethan hesitated. Then quietly, "I said, if the right situation came along, I'd consider it. I said I'd let you girls have a say." May's eyes lit up. "You said we could pick." He rubbed his face. "I said pick within reason." Clara leaned forward. "Then promise." Silence filled the room, thick as dust. Ethan looked at his daughters. 2 small lives depending on his choices, and felt the weight of it settle deep in his bones. "Fine," he said, at last. "If the time comes, you can choose. Anything you like." The words would haunt him. Town sat a day's ride east, pressed up against a river that never quite decided which side of the law it belonged on. By the time Ethan arrived, the sun was low, turning the dust red as blood. He tied his horse outside the general store, eyes scanning the street. Cowboys leaned against posts. A preacher argued with a gambler. Somewhere a piano struggled through a tune. And across the street, near the trading post, stood a woman who did not belong, and yet belonged more than any of them. She wore buckskin, worn soft by years of use, hair black as midnight braided down her back. Her posture was calm, alert, not submissive, not defiant, just steady, Apache. Ethan's hand drifted closer to his rifle without him realizing it. The town noticed her too. Conversations quieted. Eyes followed her movements, some curious, some hostile. A man spat in the dirt as she passed. She didn't flinch. She traded calmly with the storekeeper, voice low and firm, then turned and met Ethan's gaze. For a moment the world narrowed. Her eyes were dark, intelligent, unreadable. Not afraid. Ethan felt something stir that had nothing to do with fear. He broke eye contact first. They met again an hour later. By accident or fate, Ethan wasn't sure. 2 drunk men cornered her near the livery, voices slurred with cruelty. "Hey, squaw," one sneered. "Ain't your land." She stood her ground, hands loose at her sides. "Move." The man laughed and reached for her braid. The crack of Ethan's rifle butt against his wrist echoed sharp and final. "Back away," Ethan said coldly. The second man hesitated, then ran. The woman looked at Ethan, not with gratitude, but assessment. "You did not have to do that," she said. "Yes," Ethan replied. "I did." A beat passed between them. "My name is Narlin," she said at last. "Ethan Calloway." She nodded once. "Your land is west." He frowned. "You know it?" "I know many things." They stood there, tension humming, until she turned and walked away, disappearing into the dusk like smoke. Ethan watched her go longer than he meant to. The next morning, Clara and May rode into town with him. They saw Narlin before he did. May tugged his sleeve hard. "Pa." Narlin stood near the riverbank, speaking with a trader. The light caught her profile, strong and unyielding. Clara didn't look away. "That's her." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Her who?" "The woman from yesterday," May said. "She's different." Clara's voice was quiet but certain. "We want that Apache woman as our mom." The world seemed to tilt. Ethan turned to them slowly. "You don't understand." "She's strong," May said. "She wasn't scared. And she looked lonely," Clara added. Ethan followed their gaze back to Narlin. Lonely wasn't the word he would have chosen. Dangerous was. And yet, he remembered his promise. Choose anything you like. The dust rose around them as the wind shifted, and somewhere in town, unseen eyes were watching. The West did not forgive hesitation. By the time Ethan agreed to let Nayland ride back to the ranch, only to talk, he told himself the news had already begun to spread. Towns were like that. Words moved faster than horses and uglier. Narlin rode ahead of them, posture straight, eyes on the horizon. Clara and May watched her with open admiration, whispering to each other as if afraid the wind might steal their thoughts. Ethan rode last, every instinct screaming that he was crossing a line he couldn't uncross. At the ranch, Narlin took in the land quietly. The sagging fence, the dry well, the scars of hard years etched into every post and plank. She knelt once, pressed her fingers into the dirt, and stood again. "This land is tired," she said, "but it is not dead." That night tension sat heavy at the supper table. Narlin spoke little, but when she did, the girls listened. She corrected. May's grip on a spoon the same way she corrected a knife hold. Calm, patient, precise. Ethan noticed how the house felt less hollow, and the realization unsettled him. But danger rode close behind. A railroad scout passed by at dusk, eyes lingering too long. Later, a shadow moved along the fence line. Narlin woke Ethan with a single word: watch. From the ridge they saw them, riders. Too many, not Apache. Hunters, men who profited from stirring hatred. Ethan tightened his grip on his rifle. Narlin stood beside him, unafraid. "If I stay," she said softly, "they will come." Ethan didn't answer. He was already choosing.